So looks like we're live here on YouTube, and great to have you here with me. Looking at the analytics, we've got 35 of you on from all over the place. Can see some of you already in the chat. Mumbai, Rathfarnham Road, Colombo, Sri Lanka, Dublin, Ireland, Madrid, and yes, I did enjoy my birthday cake. So I'm going to cover the 5 missing lessons that in my previous YouTube live stream I began the 10 most important lessons that I learned in life. I've got 5 still to go. Carlos, great to see you. Rose, looking forward to see Florian live on the big screen at 6. Sirin, great to have you here. Yuka, hey, Barcelona, Castelldefels. I hope you can see the beach from where you are. So I was going to get on to the 6 to 10 of most important lessons in life. So let's get ourselves set here. We've got the talking camera. Number 6 most important lesson learned in life. It takes 2 people for a lie to happen. It takes 2 people for a lie to happen. So I heard this from a lady who teaches the FBI how to detect lies. And she spoke at an entrepreneurs organization. You see, today I'm wearing my entrepreneurs organization Global Leadership Academy t-shirt. She spoke at an EO event in Istanbul, and she came to give a keynote on how to detect lies. And the main bulk of her message was there's not one signal like touching your nose or scratching your head that in and of itself tells you that the other person is being deceitful or is lying to you. That it's a combination of signals that show that they're under greater stress than normal, than would be expected. But the message that really struck me from that conference is when she said that it takes 2 people for a lie to work. It takes one person who wants to tell the lie, and it takes another person who wants to believe the message of the lie. So for you to be gullible to liars, for you to be swindled by a charlatan, there needs to be something in your life that perhaps isn't really true, but you would love to think that it's true. And as long as you have some fantasies in your life of things that perhaps reality doesn't show to be true, but you would love with all of your might for it to be true, there is the opportunity for someone to tell a lie to you and for you to want to believe it. And I know that the 3 people who have cheated me the most in my business life, the 3 of them played on a particular type of role or belief that I wanted to have. And all 3 of them at some stage in the time that we had got to know each other would tap me on the back, look me in the eyes and say, your father must be so proud of you. And I know he is, but when an old person with grey hair says that to me, somehow I ignore all of the clues that maybe they have a different plan or agenda and tend to want it. In the last 5 or 6 years since I saw that speech in Istanbul, I'm very wary when someone says a phrase like that. If someone says a phrase like that, I just have a little alert saying, be careful here. But this idea that there are a couple of areas of your life where perhaps they're not in good order. You haven't achieved what you intended to achieve. And a good liar will pick up on those. If you're aware of these flaws in your character, where you have a distorted sense of yourself, where you're seeking status or prestige and would be willing to sacrifice some of your values for a bit more status, a bit more validation, a bit more prestige, then you are open to being cheated. So we can do some work on ourselves to reduce this risk that another could take advantage of us. Now let's go back to our chat cam here, and as you can see, as I get more and more live streams going, we're getting the screen set up better here. I've got my little thing saying now we're on chat cam. We've got a few people joining. Dale, hey, great to see you from Vancouver Island. And Dale is a speaker on cruise ships. So if anyone is dealing with a tough market right now, Dale, I hope you're well. Hope we get you to catch up for a coffee again in Barcelona someday soon. Tunde from Hungary, Gilberto from Santa Catarina, Brazil, tudo bem, Lancelot, great to have you here. Kurdistan, Nushar, welcome. Nicole, Milan, hey, I hope things are starting to get better there. We see the news each night and it seems that Italy is starting to flatten the curve and starting to see the light coming at the end of this quarantine period. But fingers crossed for you there in Italy. Ibatsim, Morocco, Yves, Switzerland, Reino, hey, great to have you on here. Dale, you're very welcome. So we're going to switch back for our lesson number 7 in life. Hey, John, hey, Yuka, I will touch on those questions. So all these questions going into chat, I will definitely touch on, but we're now going to go for number 7. Number 7 is unconditional peace of mind. For many years, I looked for a type of peace of mind where if I have enough money, if I have enough status, if I have enough success, I'll be okay. And I remember listening to a podcast by a coach called Conor Neill. And it's a short podcast. I remember listening to it before I went on a run. And in the podcast, he talked about a client of his, a businessman. And the businessman spoke to Michael, who was his coach, and he said, Michael, a large company is about to buy the business where I work. Will it be okay? Will I lose my job? How will it affect me? Is it going to be okay? And Michael reflected on that question, that this individual, this businessman, was looking for Michael to let him know that it would be okay, things would be okay. And Michael's reflection was, what a terrible basis to have peace of mind. If you can only have peace of mind when a series of external factors are under control, this is the worst type of peace of mind. If you need enough money, enough food, enough friends, enough status, enough health in order to be at peace, you're going to lose your peace of mind when you most need it. If your peace of mind is connected to a set of things outside of yourself being okay, the moment that you really need to be centered and strong and be able to find sources of energy within are exactly when it's going to be toughest to find it. And Michael said, we need to find a source of peace of mind that comes from a belief, whatever comes, I will be enough. Whatever challenges I face, I will find the resources. Whatever comes in the future, I will find within me the resources to overcome those obstacles. And I remember many, many years ago, 2008, I was going through a very tough time. There was a cafe in the train station, and I sat on the edge of someone else's table because the restaurant was so full. And I got talking to an American lady who was sat in the cafe. And she said to me some words that really helped me in 2008, 2009 get through some really tough times. And one of the things she said to me, she said, God would never give you a problem that he doesn't know you're capable of overcoming. Doesn't mean it's going to be easy. Doesn't mean that it's not going to force you to really look within and dig deep. But there's no obstacle that you're going to face in this universe that you haven't also been given the resources with which to overcome it. The challenge is the resources you need to overcome future obstacles are not the resources that you use to overcome your challenges of the past. And the challenge that we face now with coronavirus, COVID-19, the businesses that are able to adapt, the people who are able to adapt, to let go of what worked in the past, that's the past, and to look at what new resources, what new perspectives, what new ways of approaching life are going to be necessary to be fulfilled in this new world. But this fundamentally stems from inculcating in yourself an attitude that no matter what comes at me in life, I will find the resources in me and in the people around me to be able to overcome. And I speak in a lot of conferences about, as a leader, there's 4 levels with which we can engage with other people. And that's empathy, sympathy, apathy, antipathy. And very often we fall into sympathy. And sympathy sounds good, but it's a very weak way of treating other people. It's a very weak way of treating yourself. And someone who's being sympathetic, if you were to say to me, Connor, I'm really struggling, don't have cash, I don't know what I'm going to do, our sales are dropping, people are looking to me, I don't know what to do. Sympathy is for me to put myself in their shoes and imagine how painful it would be and say something like, ooh, that's really hard, ooh, that must be really tough. And what I'm doing is I'm sympathizing with them. I'm permitting them to play a role of a victim. Empathy is not to empathize with your pain. Empathy is almost wonderful. It's great to see that a person like you faces a big challenge. What are you looking at? What are you seeing? What are you thinking as you look at this challenge? So empathy is almost a joy when someone around you or yourself starts to face a challenge. Sympathy is to feel pity. And pity means that the person you're looking at, you see smaller than they really are. Empathy, when someone faces a problem and they don't know how to get through it, and their reaction when they share it with you is you going, wonderful. I wonder how we're going to get through this, but I know that you're going to find the resources in you. It's amazing how people grow when you see them bigger than they are themselves. And the path to apathy and antipathy is through sympathy. If each person that comes into your office shares their problems and you take them on and you feel pity for them and you suffer the emotion, after 10 people, you move to apathy. You just don't have energy left. You're fed up and you close your door. And if people still find ways of calling your phone, getting in, that apathy turns to antipathy, where you start to be actively against the world. No child starts at apathy. The way you get to apathy is through sympathy. Is through taking other people's problems and loading the emotional baggage on you, not seeing in them someone who's bigger than they're seeing themselves at this moment. If they were given this problem, it's because the universe knows that they are capable with the resources at their disposal to find a way through. What they do need help on is sometimes to lift up their eyes and see resources that they're not seeing. And in Vistage, my role as a leader, my role as a teacher is not to solve your problems and not to take away your problems. It's help you get really clear what the problem is, why it's a problem for you, what an ideal future might look like, what resources you haven't thought of are there, what options you have that are existing. And once I can move you out of this victim, unresourceful state into seeing clearly where you are, seeing clearly where you'd like to get, seeing some of the different things, stopping the patterns of negative thought and opening creative thought, it's amazing what we can achieve. So this second of this week's, the 7th, is unconditional peace of mind. And I think sometimes it's having a faith that whatever comes, there's purpose to it. And as we go through it, we're going to learn on the other side what it was that this was sent for. But you don't ask the question in the journey. If you're climbing Everest and thinking every 2 minutes, should I do this? You're never going to climb Everest. The only way you climb Everest is commit to the journey, walk one step at a time, keep on going one step at a time. One day you're on the summit, you come back down. It's only before or afterwards that you get to do the big think about what's my purpose, what's the point, is this too much pain? Unconditional peace of mind is believe that the obstacles you face, if you were to pay more attention to the resources that you're around, if you were to look at some of the things you're not seeing, you will find that you do have the resources to get through this. Let's go back to chat cam here. I can see some chat coming in. I like the applause. Now there's a good few questions back from, so I got Hamed. Great to see you, Hamed. I don't know where you are in the world, Germany or back in Iran. So John Zimmer, great to have you here. And Yuka, would you mind explaining a little bit more about this, please? I don't remember when that comment was made. So Yuka, could you make that question more specific so I can answer it without more context? Karina from Argentina, CSC Vending from Barcelona. Jamie, hey, great to have you here, Jamie. Jamie, I know you and me were both on the Facebook Live with Warren Rustand yesterday. And anyone on here who wants to listen to a leader, someone who's a mentor and inspiration for me, Warren Rustand is running a series of Facebook Live events over the next couple of weeks. And he's been a real mentor to me in showing how, as a leader, you step up and deal with difficult things. So I will make sure that that is shared widely. Jose Juan, hey, que bien verte. Good to have you on here. Maharaj, Patna, Bihar, India. Hey, how is India these days? I hear lockdown is on. I want to become a film director. Now, this is something I love, how you use story to make documentaries, to make a film. One of these days I'm going to make a series of videos on that, but how to tell story, particularly in constructing a film, this is something I have a great interest in. Ethan, yeah, you know this shirt, great to have you on here. Jamie, thank you. Hey, Sebastian Reis, Eka, we have you on here. Sophia, I hope you're watching on TV. I love you. Marcelo, tudo bem? Brian Sheehan, how to spread empathy without draining yourself. And I think, there's a very important sense, this distinction between empathy and sympathy. Empathy is a deep belief that the best things that a good person can face in life is an obstacle or a problem. The times that we grow as human beings is when we face something that is more difficult than our current state of mind has allowed us to get through. And it's that obstacle is going to make us grow as we go through it. If you can really believe that. So when someone comes up to you, Brian, and says, Brian, I have a problem. And your real feeling inside is delight, because if they're a good human being, there's nothing better that can happen to them than to face problems that are worthy of their skills. I often think, Gandhi at the one stage was a great man, but he was lucky to arrive in the universe in the time when there was a big enough problem that the scale of his skills and his values was on a par with the scale of the problem that he faced, which was gaining the freedom for India and uniting India as a nation. How many leaders have the values of Gandhi, the competence of Gandhi, but they never in their lifetime face a problem of a scale that allows them to show how capable they could have been. So Brian, I think the worst thing that can happen to great people is to not face great problems, because it is very hard as a human being to grow unless you have to. Yuka, about liars. I think my comment about your father so proud of you is a particular weakness in me in my 20s and 30s. So each of us have one or two things that are not true that we would deeply love to be true. And if you can find what they are, you become more capable of not falling into lies. We're going to go, okay, Jose, great to have you on here. Hey, Jeddah, Saudi Arabia. I was in Jeddah back in 2009, so I loved my time in Jeddah. Very interesting for me to step off the plane in Jeddah and for the first time live the hospitality, and it's quite a different world for an Irishman who lives in Barcelona to experience. Let's go back to our next lesson in life, and for that we'll switch back to lesson cam. Lesson number 8 is don't swim against the current. I spent 3 years of my life living in Sydney, Australia, and I lived near the beach. For 2 of the years I lived near Bondi Beach, and 1 year I lived near Bronte Beach. And these beaches have ocean waves, Pacific Ocean surf waves. And for someone who grew up in Europe, we're not ready for how powerful ocean waves are on those beaches. So when you're learning to surf or learning to swim on beaches with giant waves, they tell you never swim against the current. If you notice yourself being pulled out to sea, don't try and swim against it, swim sideways. And this idea, don't swim against the current, I remember when my father turned 70, my whole family, we spent a month in France in a chateau next to a river. And the river, uh, each day, myself and my brother would walk a mile up the river with floating objects from the pool, those sort of floating pool toys. We walk a mile up the river, get into the river with our two pool toys, and just float over the course of half an hour all the way down this river. Very peaceful thing. One time, myself and my brother got into the river, and he got in the river probably 3-4 meters to the left of where I was. And we just let ourselves drift. And the particular channel of the river that he caught was going 3 or 4 times faster. There was sort of rapids at the left and a very calm place where I was. And I remember he got down a mile down the river in about 8 minutes, whereas it took me 3 times as long. And it dawned on me there, if I had spent the whole time I was in the water paddling forward, paddling in the direction where I wanted to go, I would have made no real difference to how fast I would have arrived. But if I'd paddled just 2 meters to the left to join the real fast flowing current, I would have reached down the bottom of the river at a real big speed. And in my life, I thought, how often in business am I paddling ferociously towards the direction where I want to go without stopping to just look, is there a better channel? Is there somewhere else I could be? Is there a place I could place myself that the flow of the river is going much faster? There's a professor at that Instituto Empresa Madrid, and he says, get into the traffic. So, if you want to meet people, and you're on a remote village in Lleida and no one passes through the village, well, you're never going to meet people. You got to put yourself where the traffic is. If you want to meet a fit person, well, you put yourself in the reception area of a gym and there's like 10 of them passing every 2 minutes. So this idea of put yourself where the traffic is going, put yourself where the current is moving. Success is not just you becoming really competent, it's also putting yourself where the opportunities are flowing past you. And I see so many people becoming really competent, really fit, really strong, really good, but they're in a place in their organization or in their business that the opportunities are not going past. And they need to just lift up and find a place where they get exposure. This idea, I remember many years ago, a friend of mine, Matt Cox, told me for success in a career, you need 3 things. PIE, P-I-E, performance, impact, exposure. And typically the first 10 years of career, what's really important is the first one, P, performance. If you're given a task, you do it well. The second is really important in the second decade of your career. So if you from 20 to 29, you've got good at taking tasks and doing them well, so performance. From 30 to 40, what's really important is impact. And impact is not just doing any project, but picking the projects that are going to have a significant impact on what is important to the organization. And being careful not to be put on projects that you can be really good at, but they don't affect anything that matters in the organization. And then from 40 to 50, if you are going to make it up to CEO, senior leadership, it's not enough to be just a performer. It's not enough to choose projects that have impact. You need a third, exposure. You need to be getting face time with the decision makers. You need to be giving yourself exposure that they are seeing that you're this person doing performance, having an impact. And my friend Matt told a story of he met after 8 years working in a large corporate. He had a meeting for a promotion with the CEO of the global group. And he was really looking forward to this meeting. He came in, the guy's office was enormous. There was a sofa area, a desk area, and he had my friend sit down, brought him a coffee, and my friend got ready for the first question. And the CEO sat down, had a drink of his coffee, he looked at him and he says, "You've been here 8 years? Why don't I know you?" And let him sat with that. And that lesson was taken on board by my friend, that performance, impact is only 2/3 of the job. You've got to make sure you're getting exposure. So this idea of where do you put yourself so that people see your performance, see the impact you're having, and then this river starts to flow. But no amount of paddling yourself is as impactful as people with authority, people with reputation, seeing the work you're doing and then lifting you up and helping really accelerate the whole thing. And in my own life, most of the great opportunities that have come to me, I've been pulled into by someone else. I haven't pushed my way into it. So this idea of where can you position yourself to make a real difference in the life of someone who is senior, who has power, who has authority, who has a reputation. Because if you can show them how much of an impact you can make, they're going to lift you up and give you opportunities where it will start to come together. So this idea, you can get pulled into more opportunities than you can push your way into. Let's go back to our chat cam here. Maria Luisa, tudo bem? Thank you for joining us here. Great to have you, and loved your comment on the YouTube channel a few days ago. I hope I wasn't too harsh with my answer, but for me, one of the important things when teaching, and Maria Luisa is a teacher in Brazil, it's so easy to look at how it impacts me. And what I try and do every day that I have a class in IESE, every day before I stand on a stage and give a speech, is to notice that my thinking is about me. What am I getting? What's this going to be? Will I do well? And what I do before I teach is I stop and I look at the people in the room and I think, who are they? What did they need from me? What brings them here today? What struggles are they going through? And if I know the answer, I can start. If I don't know the answer, I go and speak to one or two. What brings you here? What are you looking from this session? What pains, what struggles are you dealing with that you want to solve through the work we're going to do here? And for me as a teacher, it's so important to stop thinking about me and put myself into the shoes of the participants. What brings them here? And if they ask me a question and it feels like they're judging me, to stop and think about, what question is that? Cool. So keep the bounce. Hey, Tony, loved your video today. We need to get that video out to a big audience. Ethan, Bondi Beach, fantastic place. Florian, the brushing your teeth analogy. Oof, we'll see where we get there. Carlos, we will get that exposure back again, and that will be a part of our next conversation over lunch in Madrid. How to make a good storyteller. That is a video. So in fact, there's a video on my channel, The Hero's Journey, 7 steps to a great story. Arancha, yes. So impact and exposure, I think, in a way, in the world of the internet, you can put your portfolio online. Any artist, any actor is expected to have a portfolio. And when you're starting as an artist, when you're starting as an actor, when you're starting as an architect, you work for free in order to produce finished products that you can show potential paying customers what you're doing. I think with YouTube, if you, during this quarantine period, whatever your dream job is, what could you do now for free to create some examples of the impact that you could have in your dream position, solving your dream type of problems? IESE, how to improve pronunciation. Oof, that's a tough one. But for me, I was an Irish teenager going to an American school. That forced me to really learn to speak in an international English. I left Ireland when I was 14 years old and went into a US high school, and very quickly realized that although I spoke the same language, my accent made it hard for them to understand. And I was the different one, so I was the one that was going to have to work to speak in a way that they could understand. Generating impact in virtual communication. Luis, I love that. So yeah, let's talk about that on here. So how to have impact through the camera. I think there's an incredible phenomenon that I see in Spain, in Europe, in a lot of the world, People who think they're communicating, they're not communicating. They're what I call thinking out loud. And this video, the Zoom communication, I've spent in the last three weeks, 4 hours a day on Zoom, in Google Hangouts, Google Meets, in these little videos where the only impact you have on the other human beings is through your little video window. And it really is striking who is doing their homework, who is taking out sheets of paper and doing their thinking in their own time and using the meetings to communicate thinking that has already been done. There are other people that the first time they're articulating their thought is in the meeting in front of 10 or 20 or 30 people. And I think, Luis, my answer is you've got to do your own thinking. And now, if there were things that you in the past had said that you didn't have time for, now you have time. So if you wanted to write a book and you're not writing now, time is not your issue, it's discipline. And to me, what most people could do to improve the impact of their communication, both in video and also in face-to-face, but it's even more evident in video, is do your thinking by yourself. Write stuff down. Yeah, here I have my journal full of ideas. In my Evernote here, this list of top 10 lessons I've learned in life. They're written down. There's ideas. I've gone back to it over and over again. It's not an accident that when I speak about it, there's 3 or 4 ideas, a story, a metaphor, an anecdote, because I've put it all together. When I'm sitting on a lot of these Zoom calls, you can, within 10 seconds of someone starting speaking, tell whether they're thinking out loud or whether they've got a clean, crisp, clear point that they've done their homework and they're ready to present in a way that we can engage with. So that would be my recommendation, and it's all the more important now on video. When you're face-to-face having a coffee, it's very difficult for the other person to just turn away and completely ignore you. On video, it's so easy to just put your mobile phone just beneath the camera here and act as if you're still paying attention, but everyone can tell that no one can tell if you're good at this. But don't do thinking out loud and think it's communicating. If you want to communicate well, you have to write stuff down. You have to do your own thinking in your own time. You cannot use other people as your first test of the ideas that are coming to you at that moment. So let's see, my number 9, how many fingers is that? Number 9, lesson in life. And Jim Rohn states it best when he says, you will become the average of the 5 people with whom you spend most time. And over the course of my life, every decade, I realized this is twice as important as I thought it really was. It really matters who you surround yourself with. It matters that you surround yourself with people that want you to be the best at what matters to you. They want you to become the best version of yourself. They see you capable more than you sometimes believe you are. I remember when I was 14 years old, the teacher that most impacted my life, Mr. Matz, I remember going up to Mr. Matz with a homework, handing it in, getting the note back, and he'd given me 11 out of 10. And I remember as a 14-year-old schoolboy, it just didn't compute. On a test with 10 points, there was no 11. And I went back up to Mr. Matz and I said, Mr. Matz, on this homework, it's out of 10, you've given me 11. I think there's a problem. And Mr. Matz told me, Conor, 10 was for the best I expected someone could do on this homework. You have gone beyond what I thought was expected on this homework. You have gone beyond what I thought someone could do with this project. You deserve the 11 and you're going to get it. And that totally distorted and destroyed the way I was looking at the world up till then. Up till then, as a 14-year-old, I was very clear. What do you need to get a C? What do you need to get a B? What do you need to get an A? Well, do I want a B or do I want a C? And I would do the minimum amount of work to get the B. After this, I realized there's grades beyond the A. An A is just the opinion of someone else. There's always something you can put in that goes far beyond what anyone else expects. But Mr. Matz never looked into me and saw a small 14-year-old schoolboy. Mr. Matz looked at me and always saw someone capable of so much more. And I never wanted to let Mr. Matz down, not because he would ever tell me off, but just because I knew he wasn't looking at the real me. He was looking at the best version of me, and I wanted to live up to that expectation that he had. And for me, I've tried to put people around me in my life now that look at me like Mr. Matz used to look at me. And I try to have young people in my life, and I try and look at them the same way that Mr. Matz looked at me. I truly don't know what I would be, where I would be in life if I had not had the opportunity to be in the class of biology when I was 14 years old with Mr. Matz. Three of the most important things that habits in my life came from that 1 hour a day during 14 years old during school. Writing in a journal is something that Mr. Matz inculcated into me. Treating every other human being as their best version is something that Mr. Matz inculcated into me. Putting yourself in a positive state and sharing positivity with everyone around you was something that Mr. Matz cultivated and inculcated into me. And one of the things that I do each afternoon, I do it a bit less now, but I should get back to that habit. Every afternoon, I in my journal, put a line in the middle, love, hate. And I just reflect on what are all of the things, people, projects, activities that have added to my life, made my life better in the last 24 hours? What are all the things that have subtracted, drained energy, weakened me in the last 24 hours? And I put projects, activities, I also put people. And if someone appears 2 or 3 times in the right-hand side as someone who sucks my energy, draws me down, I make an effort to not dislike them, but I definitely put some barriers so that they have less access to me. And the people that appear on the left-hand side, and Luis is one of them, Tony Anagor is one of them, Florian is one of them, Ethan is one of them, are people that every interaction makes me feel stronger, better, more capable, that things matter, that doing the work that's hard is even more important. And I think that this thing of if you want to get fit, surround yourself with fit people. If you want to eat healthy, find a group of friends that enjoy preparing healthy meals. If instead of trying to inculcate habits, you just look to what environment, what group of friends can I put around me that already have this habit, you'll find that changes you far more than putting the effort into your own life. So thanks to all of you on this chat and in this live stream who at some point in my life have given me a positive word, have given me a word of encouragement, because each little word of encouragement has incredible power. And maybe this I think is something that it took me years of teaching to realize how powerful a word of encouragement is to someone else. And I go out of my way when I'm teaching in the MBAs and the executive MBAs in business. If I see somebody do something well, if I see someone doing anything well, I really make an effort to go up to them and just say, hey, I really think you did well today. I love the courage you showed. In my classes, whoever has been a volunteer to come down and do one of the exercises, at the end of the session, I go straight to each of them and I just say, thank you. It is not an easy thing to be the first to show that courage. And I thank them. And I know that as I thank them, there are 10 other people around them seeing me thanking them directly. And I think, showing gratitude for the people around you that are putting good stuff in encourages more people to do the things that make your life good. So showing appreciation, I guess, is a way of cultivating the 5 people that are around you. And the 5 people that are around you can be books, can be your family, can be friends, can be picking up the phone. Now via Zoom, you can have influences from all over the world. But cultivating very carefully, who do you listen to? Who do you allow to spend time in your space, in your mind? Are these people that want the best for you, want you to become strong? And want the best for you doesn't mean they fix your problems, doesn't mean they give you money, doesn't mean they give you position. It means they want you to overcome the struggles by yourself. They want you to achieve the skill. So let's come back to chat cam here. And we've got our last few minutes. And for me, I want to thank everyone who's left a message in the chat. To me, this live stream, I wouldn't be doing it if it wasn't for Florian Mueck. And Florian is a friend of mine, a collaborator here in IESE Barcelona with me. And the reason I've started switching this camera on and speaking to the world from here inside my home is because of the inspiration of a close friend of mine just deciding he was going to do it. He was going to have the courage to open up this window into his home to talk off the cuff and share what he's going through in quarantine, what he's thinking about, how he deals with life through Livestream. And I hope for each of you, your friends and your role models are people that are doing things that encourage you to take risks and try new things. Bethany, thank you very much for your kind words, insight and warmth. I think yesterday on the live stream with Warren Rustand, my question to Warren was, how do you do the right, as a leader, how do you put the right balance between conveying hope and positivity for the future and being honest about the difficulties that we face, and how as a leader do I find the right balance between positive messages of hope, we're going to get through this, there is a light, this crisis is not going to wipe us out, but also we got to be honest, there's some tough decisions we're going to make and we're going to have to make them together, and I can't do this alone and I need you to step up. How do I find this balance? And for the last 3 weeks, I haven't been centered. I've been either too much positivity without enough reality, and then I swing over to too much reality without not enough positivity. So finding a way of this right balance in that I'm positive about the future, but I'm also conscious that we're going to face some difficulties over the next 2 years in economies, in health, in dealing with people close to us going through really tough times. And how will we get through this? So Florian, great to have you on here. At 6 p.m. We'll be coming over to your live stream. Stephen, yes, there are levels beyond 10. Every grade is someone else's opinion. There's always something beyond what other people's opinion is. And for me, this thing, it's strange being an Irish guy who went to school in America. And at age 14 in Ireland, what I was best at was cynical apathy, seeing the pointlessness of it all. And I was taken as a 14-year-old cynic, apathetic teenager and put in an American school. And Mr. Matz, in a way, the first time I engaged with him, he was extremely positive. He started every class by walking in and saying, "It's a great day." And the cynical Irish apathetic Conor, 14-year-old, sat at the back in perfect slouch position, would just think, stupid American positivity. But Mr. Matt's positivity wasn't baseless positivity. He was honest about what it was to be a 14-year-old. But he was also honest that you get two choices of how you look at this world. We get to look at this world as if everything is a miracle or as if nothing is a miracle. There's no gray in between. If you want to look at the world as if nothing is a miracle, everything's pointless, you might be right, but it's a very unenriching attitude to take. If you can take the stance that everything is a miracle, everything has a purpose, everything that comes, whether I understand it or not, is here for a reason. And as I move through it, I will grow and I will learn. And I don't know whether I'll ever come to terms with why all of these things have happened in my life. But the journey is one of growing, of constant growing. Nick, Stoicism, 100%. I think on a previous live stream I was talking about each morning 10, 10, 10. Read 10 minutes, something inspires you. Take 10 minutes to write down in your journal everything that's running through your mind. Get it out of your head onto a page, and take 10 minutes of gratitude, of just thinking about what you're grateful for as a practice. The book I'm reading at the moment, I have the 4 Ryan Holiday books, all on Stoicism. And some of those books are the ones that I'm going through in my 10 minutes each morning of looking for inspiring material. Stoicism really is, for me, the most meaningful of the original 5 Greek philosophies on how to approach life. Stoicism, this idea of seeing the problem as the way. I think the Ryan Holiday book is called The Obstacle is the Way. The obstacle you're trying to get around, the obstacle is the path. The path is not around it. The path is through the obstacle you have in front of you. And if you go through it, it will have the impact that it needs to have on you. Another saying that I love is, the universe will keep sending you a lesson until you learn it. So every time you go around an obstacle, every time you look for a shortcut and go under an obstacle, every time you look for some help, someone else to solve it for you, the universe will just keep putting that obstacle back in your way. And this idea that sometimes the worst thing you can do for a friend that never has money is lend them money. Because if you lend them money, they're able to continue with their existing non-functional way of living for longer. If you don't give them money and help them face the reality of their struggle and help them face, yes, you have no money. What needs to change? Oh, no, if you just lend me, I'll be able to change. No, what needs to change? So yeah, Nick, Ryan Holiday is very good. Sebastian, great to have you on here. And Sebas, thank you so much for the webinar you gave with Vistage the other day. Very helpful on how to make an impact through video. So I think Sebas will need to put you in touch with Luis Costa, who was asking about what tips are there for now that there's so many virtual video meetings. How can we have more impact through the little video screen? Sebas is someone who can certainly share on that. He's a YouTuber with, I think, 370,000 subscribers. So in the last few years, he's certainly learned how to share and build a community through this little video. So yeah, hey, keep the bounce. Tony, hey, your video was brilliant. I've put it on my blog. I love what you're putting together. For 8-9 years, I've been pushing Tony to make videos. I am so pleased that the coronavirus has finally got Tony to sit down, put the camera on, and share the wisdom that he has inside. We're going to get a lot of good stuff from Tony over these weeks as the quarantine helps him just sit still with a video camera and share his wisdom with the world. So we're coming up to the last few minutes. What I would love for each of you is just what I normally ask is number 5, one final word as we close out this webinar. One final word. What word represents the state you're in, how you're feeling in this moment? If you had to put one word that captures how you're feeling in this moment, what would that word be? So stick that into the chat, and I'm going to share the 10th lesson on my top 10 lessons in life, and then we'll get back to look at some of the words that are there in the chat. So switching to Cam here, important is more important than efficient, and so often we do what is easy, not what is important. One of the stories that I tell, and I need to find a much better story, so I'm going to tell this story now. I don't normally share it in in classes because I need to find a more professional version of it. But the story is there's an Irish rugby team. It's Friday night, just like now. They've had 3 pints in the pub, and it's reaching that moment where, you know, after the 3rd pint is when you really start to feel the need to get to the toilet. And one of the team finishes his pint and he heads to the bathroom, and in the rush and in the urgency, as he gets into the toilet, as he approaches the urinal, as he gets ready to release the flow, €5 falls out into the urinal, and he pisses on it and finishes the piss, and another of the rugby team comes in and he sees the situation. That the guy's finished having his pee in the urinal. There's a €5 note totally soaked with piss, and the other guy on the team looks at him and he says, "Oof, what are you gonna do?" And the first guy takes out his wallet, pulls out €50, and he throws it in on top of the €5, and then he reaches in and he takes the €55, and he says, "I wasn't going to get piss on my hands for €5, but for €55, yes." And this story goes to, if it's not worth putting 10 times the effort required to start, it's not important enough a project for you to begin. And too many people ruin their life by starting lots and lots of €5 projects. They ruin their life because they fill all of their time with €5 projects. And I think the deciding factor on whether you do a project, where you commit to something, is not whether you're willing to start. I think we need to put for ourselves a decision factor that if I'm not willing to put 10 times what it would cost to begin this project, I'm not going to even begin. And that should be the hurdle for starting projects. Because if you pick up the little shiny objects along the way, you're so busy picking up the little shiny objects, you're missing the giant important thing that really matters for you. I remember a couple of years back, yes, it was probably quite a few years back, when my father retired from Accenture. About 2 years later, a friend of his retired as the CEO of Bank of Ireland. And the week after he'd retired, he was with our family on holiday. My father gave him some advice on how to live the first year after you retire from a very busy job. And it was essentially, don't say yes to anything for a year. He said, you know, you're going to feel this urgency. You've gone from having your time full all of the time for years to an emptiness. And that emptiness is going to lead you to grasp and start filling up your time with little things. And my dad said, you know, it's a terrible thing to just fill your life up with little things because it's empty. So he said to this guy, so set yourself that for 1 year, you won't say yes to anything. If it's really important, you'll break the rule for it. But that as a policy will ensure that you don't fill your time with so many little things that you're not ready with time and resources when the really big important project comes along. And to me, this time of quarantine, I think needs to be looking through everything in your life through this filter of, is this important? We were running a webinar for Vistage this morning, and the speaker, Alex Aranzábal, was the president of Eibar Football Club for several years. And the group were talking about how to decide what's important versus what's not so important. And Alex said that the way he approaches all things in his life is he gives himself a time limit in each role. So as CEO of a company, he doesn't think I'm CEO forever. He says, I'm going to be here for 5 years. What do I want to get done in those 5 years? And he said by putting always a time limit on the time he's going to be in a role, it makes him decide what's really important. I'm not just going to fill up my calendar. I've got 5 years in this role to really make a difference. I'm not going to fill it up with little things. I'm going to do the big things. So to me, this last lesson is you can fail by filling your life up with little things. There's a wonderful metaphor. Stephen Covey uses it in the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. There's quite a visual one on YouTube where someone takes a big jar and they fill it up with golf balls and they say, is it full? And it looks full. And then they pour in little rocks and they fill in the gaps between the golf balls. And he says, is it full? And everyone says yes. And they fill in sand, and sand fits in all of the gaps. And then he says, is it full? Everyone says yes. Then he pours in water. And the idea here is if you put the important things into that jar first, there's room for the little things. But if you let the little things come in first, there's no room left for the big important things. So my last words here as we stop in this quarantine, we're on week 3 of quarantine here in Spain, is really look at what are the important things in your diary. Because time is the resource that we have. Time you can never get back. Time is the real measure of what's important to you. And use this time in quarantine to think about what are the 5 most important things, projects, and people. And make sure that from now to the rest of your life, more hours go to those 5 people, those 5 projects, and those 5 things than all of the little things that can easily clog up an agenda. So we'll switch back here to chat cam. Rodrigo, great to have you on. Yves Spilett, inspired. Akaje, poised. Rodrigo, resilience. Reino, grow how. I like that word. Hamed, contribution. Great to have you on here, Hamed. Hamed was on the very first ever attempt at any type of live stream I did. Dewey, pure gold, thank you. Susanna, thank you. Maria, diligent, thank you for your words and thank you for accepting my feedback in the spirit that someone of your quality is able to do. Sebastian, excited, and Sebastian, looking forward to see what you do over the next few years. Roshan, inspiring, thank you. Siren, generous, great. Abo Zain, I've got my chat window Hindu. Abo Zain, do this for life as if you live forever. Do for the afterlife as if you die tomorrow. So yeah, I think this thing of what would you do? What would you want your life to be remembered for? So we're gonna wrap up here. When is the next stream? That is a great question. Monday at 4 p.m. So 1 hour earlier than this, I will be doing a live stream for IESE Business School. I will make sure to share the link in the chats and everywhere that I can. But next live stream is Monday, 6th of April at 4 p.m. Barcelona time. I will share that via Facebook, via email, via Twitter. Ashish, how to reach me on my blog, conorneill.com. You'll find many ways of reaching me, sending a message, contacting. Paul Watkins, thank you, very kind. So I'm actually going to find the link over to my friend Florian Weck's live stream and we'll get that. So let me find the Florian Weck link and I'll tell you where I'm going to be for the next half hour. So this link is to Florian Weck's live stream. I'm going to switch over there now. So all of you who want to keep this inspiring conversation going on a Friday evening, let's head over and say hello to Florian and make his Friday night. Next time, Monday at 4 p.m., 6th of April. Look forward to seeing all of you. Get your questions, get your engagement. Peacebox, hey, great to have you here. Thanks for your comments on the website. Maria, tudo bem? Aid, pleasure. So we're gonna bring this live stream to a close. Jamie, hey, looking forward to fencing with you one of these days. Fantastic. Have a great one. 5, 4, 3, 2, and we go to... Great.